Welcome to The Future of Care, the podcast that brings you insights and developments from companies in the tech sector that are making an impact on how we use technology to care for the elderly in our society, whether aging in place or in care home communities. And now for your host, UK Sales Director for Vyar, a leading fall detection and smart health solution, Stuart Barclay.
Hi everyone, welcome to today's Vyar Care podcast. I'm delighted to welcome David Knight from Southercare Maintenance. David's been in the industry a very, very long time, as you'll see from his background there. 35 years established as of this year, so that's fantastic news, David. David, I would really like you to introduce Southercare Maintenance, because I think that's important to set the day out.
Yeah, no, that's great, Stuart, and thank you very much for asking us to do this. It's going to be a delight, I'm sure. Southercare Maintenance was founded back in, more years ago than I care to remember, really, 1987, so we've been celebrating our 35 years of success. We started out as a very small company, and we've grown slowly and steadily over the years. Fundamentally, we provide on-site servicing for our customers in a tight geographical area of the UK, the Southeast, providing cover on a whole range of systems across our two divisions. The divisions being our fire side, our alarm side, and also our nursing equipment side. We're business to business. We don't do business to consumer very much. And we cover something like over 1,000 care homes in the southeast of England.
Wow, fantastic. And I know you've got an extensive team behind you, David, and no company can survive without an amazing team behind you. And I'm sure you've got more than 100 years experience altogether when you add it up. But don't do that, because it can be quite scary when you look at it. But I really want to hear about 35 years ago. I've got a lot of years in the industry as well, but a lot of years. But 35 years ago, I was thinking about leaving school. So, what was there nurse call back then? What were you doing? How did you establish? How did you start? And I like the fact you grew slowly as well. And I think that's important. And that's why you have 1,000 customers right now, or 1,000 care homes right now. So, but how did you start? What was the initial Southercare Maintenance? What did it look like 35 years ago?
Well, obviously, the big thing thinking about that is this is pre-internet. Now, that's something that none of us can probably hardly think about these days. But there was no internet. There was nothing called Google. So that was a dream away. So, we really started by a couple of us used to work for quite a large national company. And what we found is they had a change of directorship within that company, the targets and requirements they were pushing down to the staff were completely unrealistic. They had no real experience in the business. And I was working as a salesman at the time. So basically, a couple of us got together and thought, look, we really don't like the way this is going. Why don't we try and do it better? I don't know why we thought that, but anyway, something good came of that. So that's what happened. So we left and we went to a very well-known high street bank and said, look, guys, we want to leave our very well-paid middle management jobs. And can you lend us a few quid, please? And can we get going? And they basically said yes, because in those days, the banks, as you probably know, were all too keen to lend anybody money, even me. So that's what happened. And they gave us a loan and we kicked off. And then soon after, we got our first order. And we really started doing installation. And funnily enough, it was the installation of call systems, nurse call systems. So to answer your question directly, very much so, there were nurse call systems. And we weren't going back quite to the Victorian times when we had the board up in the servants' quarter with a little bell hanging on the little spring thing. And Mrs. or Lady, somebody would push something in the drawing room. But some of the homes that we went to actually were using systems like that. Because what happened during the 80s liberalisation of the care home market is a lot of the houses that were converted were actually Victorian houses. So they had the call bell system. And even now, when we're talking digital IT, customers still refer to their call bell system. And that's where that dates back to. So I hope that's given you a bit of an idea, Stuart.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And it's always really, really insightful to hear how companies started up and where they came from and how and in some ways, some of the challenges you went through, the technical hurdles that you've got to overcome. Hence, you've got an extensive maintenance and service team, installation team there. And I know that the team very well, thankfully. So obviously you're one of our partners. I should have probably said that right at the start. ViaCare plays a big role in what your offering is today. And I understand that Southern Care Maintenance are out offering choice, importantly, to their customers. But you choose equipment and you integrate with a lot of companies, basically. You use a lot of technology out there. But how do you choose them? What's the mindset behind that?
Well, I think the key thing really is keeping up with technology. I've always been a bit of an IT nerd, going back into the ancient times, just even recording the data and the names and addresses and basic things like that. We used to compile it into an Excel spreadsheet. So I always absolutely love playing with data and logging things and having feel and all of that I absolutely like. So keeping up with technology has been always something I've been very sort of keen on anyway. And I mean, this year in particular, we've been made lots of new partnerships with lots of new companies such as Via. And that's really the way, because we know what our customers want. So we've always got our eyes and ears open, listening to what they say. Our engineers are obviously on site all the time, providing 24-hour care. So they're visiting, they're carrying out regular inspections, keeping customs equipment in tip-top working order. So we get to hear what customers want, and we rely really on our partners, and we evaluate things. Companies approach us very regularly saying, would you be interested to market this? Would you be interested in looking at that? And we only go with the best partners that we can find, really. So I suppose that's how we do it.
Yeah, so obviously and I know we've been through this, but to explain to the listeners is that it's not just a case of Southern Care Maintenance saying, we need this nurse call system because a customer wants it. It is actually advice that you give to your customers, and your customers are coming to Southern Care Maintenance to deliver the best in class solutions. Is that correct?
Yes, that would actually be that would be right. Obviously, the key thing in the marketplace at the moment is price. Obviously, in the environment that we're in at the moment, with the cost of living crisis, cost is very important, but also functionality. And what we find is providing the system or the product is providing what the customer wants. They're quite happy to pay up to a point, but there is a point when they'll say, like, no more sort of thing. So yeah, that is very true.
So I'm going to bring up a subject right now, David, that sometimes is quite hard hitting, but I was actually presenting a webinar yesterday, a roundtable event, and what we actually picked up was, and one of the questions I didn't ask, and I've saved it for today, is that what are your customers saying with regards putting cameras into care homes?
Yeah, that is quite a hot potato sometimes, obviously, because it's a two-edged sword, isn't it, really? The lack of privacy is something that is very important, and obviously it is very difficult to maintain the client or the resident's privacy when you have cameras, which is one of the reasons why we've partnered with Via, obviously, because the beauty there is there's so much information and data that can be collected without cameras, and maintaining the privacy. So that is a really that's a very important thing indeed, most definitely.
Yeah, you mean certainly the customers we've spoken to at the care shows that you very kindly came down and joined us at, and the UK Care Week events that we attend, there is some, we mentioned cameras. I was actually sat on a panelist, but there's nothing wrong with people using cameras, but importantly, we're there to educate people that there is other solutions, and I think you've done a good job with your customers explaining that as well. So I credit to yourself. You obviously work with other nurse call providers. You work with several of them. I think one of the new ones you brought in is Aquila. Is that correct?
Oh yes, Aquila. Yes, that is. They've got this fantastic second generation nurse call system, and we've been very proud. They've chosen us to cover their product and market their product for the southeast. So yeah, we're very pleased with that. And quotes are going out the door as we speak at the moment. It really is a game changer in terms of nurse call, the amount of information and also the way it can interface with other systems, obviously, as well, such as Vyaz. So absolutely, it really is our sort of leading nurse call system now.
Yeah, no, they are, and again, another partner of ours as well, which is very, very good. I suppose one of the questions then, David, and I think the audience might be interested is, and I get it all the time, and please, I'll ask some questions, but please write some questions down, because fire them back at me. I'm quite happy to support. And it is just two gentlemen having a chat, really, to be honest, with years of experience in the industry. But the industry is changing. You mentioned funding. You mentioned the whole change from analog to digital as well, and all these challenges that are coming around. I suppose, how are you seeing the sector change?
Yes, that is always challenging. Really, care homes like to sort of like the status quo. So if they've got something and it's working, and that's obviously one of our key roles. Just harping back briefly to how we started. Once we'd started doing all these installations, we suddenly realised that actually things go wrong after a period of time. Normally in month 13, once the 12-month warranties run out, and then they expect the person that installed it to come and fix it. So that really led us on to Southern Care maintenance, really, in so much as our key thing now is service and maintenance, and the installation and the upgrade of the products is like a secondary item, if you like. So customers are very keen to have things status quo. They want it fixed, they want it running. But when there's something new coming along, and really we're saying to them, look, we really can't get the parts for this anymore. It is time to consider another option, and these are the options. They're quite often completely blown away by how the market has moved on since they last looked at a nurse call system or any other product. And you know, they're loving the digital, and they're loving the information that they can collect from the clients securely, and also the peace of mind it gives the relatives of the residents as well, because they can show exactly what's happening in the care home at any time.
Yeah, you mean obviously by our supporting with the virtual caregiver, there it is, and that's great, and the fact it can the technologies you're using, Vyar being one of them, they can integrate into the best in class nurse call systems that you're putting out there, and I think that you pride yourself at Southern Care Maintenance in delivering best in class solutions, as I've said before. So I think that that's important for your customers. I suppose there is a lot of change. So you've obviously Southern Care Maintenance has changed its direction and from being an installation company to the maintenance side of things and service. But you're also looking at the other side, is where you're doing life cycle changes as well. So you're being completely honest with the customers, and that must be challenging right now, because obviously what we've been through with COVID, chip shortages, end of life on products because. And secondhand and products going up in price because the chips are going up in price. How are you addressing that at the moment?
That's something that our partners and our suppliers have been very good. We've had some, obviously, like everybody's has, the raw material costs have gone up. You mentioned the shortage of chips, which is absolutely been crucial, as it is in any modern piece of technology. But suppliers generally have been very good. They understand what the market is. So we haven't had, I think I'm right in saying, I'll probably need to check with our accounts team, our finance department. We haven't had any sort of major increases from our suppliers. There's some, and they're probably slightly more than usual. And certainly I know some lead times have been extended, which is actually why it's nice to have a range of products, certainly on the call side, even upgrading a fire alarm system, but it's more for the nurse call that the customer might have an urgent need. They might have had inspection and been told, look, you've just simply got to upgrade this within 2 months. if we can't deliver the product within 2 months, that particular product, we have to come up with another solution. So it's nice to be an independent company. It's nice to be look around and say, look, okay, look, the lead time is going to take you over the 2 months on this, but on something else we'll be able to do it. So that really is important, and that is a challenge sometimes.
Yeah, I think you've got the right attitude to that as well, and the way that, and this is what I liked about Southern Care Maintenance when we started our conversations a few months back. Well, in fact, it was 12 months ago. I met one of your engineers at one of the events we did. So, what I liked is the fact is you're honest and you're upfront with your customers. You will advise them, but you are Southern Care Maintenance. You're completely honest. As a private organisation, you hold it close to your heart. It's like a family business.
We very much do. In fact, we had, staff sort of, come and go. Mainly they don't go. On the staffing level, we've actually got people that have worked for us for over 20 years and probably longer than that. And I know certainly we've got one member of staff that's been with us since the beginning. In fact, he's just hanging up his boots this year and is actually retiring at the end of the year. And our Christmas party we're having tomorrow, I've got to find some nice and some very easy to say some very nice things about him because he's been fantastic in the organisation. So yeah, but staff, what is strange is that staff leave and then they come back sometimes. And in fact, only a few months ago, we had a note through from somebody who had left us. And in a very nice email he sent me, he said it'd be very nice to come back to the SCM family, which we all thought that was a very nice thing to say. So people do sort of look at it, I think, a little bit that way. So that is great, because that very much rubs out off with our customers as well. A lot of the engineers know our customers, on a personal level sort of thing.
That's fantastic, David. Before we go into some other questions, have you got any questions for me, just to put you on the spot? You know,
I love being put on the spot. Yeah, that would be good. Yeah. So a good question, I think, would be, how did you get started? Where was the, what was the kernel? What was the thing that triggered your genesis, if you like?
Yeah, I suppose for those that do know me, they know that I used to own nightclubs and a national cigarette vending business many moons ago. And the referendum came in Scotland of banning smoking, so I sold the business, and I was very, very privileged not to have to work for a wee bit. But unfortunately, my grandmother fell terminally ill, so I had the honour of looking after my grandmother during that time. That's how I got started. And she to this day she's up there pushing me forward all the time, and that's why I'm passionate about what I do. I believe that if I can make the difference to one person one day, then that's a sense of achievement for me. But I after my grandmother passed, I thought I better get a job. So I went to work for the City of Edinburgh local authority where I lived at the time, and supported people to go shopping that couldn't go shopping, supported them with benefit applications. And then I got some shifts within the community alarm service, got really involved in the tech side, and then went through that journey. And I was very privileged to spend some time with, it's now known as Legrand Care. Yes, I was honoured to be offered the position that I'm in now with regards to VIARcare, and bringing that to the market and actually making a huge difference in fall detection, prevention, and proactive falls management.
And obviously, you've done that exceedingly well, as we know, and it's made a real difference to lots of people's lives, I'm sure. And another question would be, what developments have we got planned in the next sort of 2 to 3 years? Have we got any particular targets or new markets or new technical developments in the product, Stuart?
Oh, the NDA management head comes in here, and I'll be careful what I say here. And I'm sure if I say something out of turn, it'll be edited out of the podcast. But importantly, I mean, what is VIAR? First of all, VIAR, for those that don't know, even though you're very kind words, we still have to educate the market. So VIARcare is a fall detection device first and foremost. It can integrate into any nurse call system, the majority of social alarms, the majority of warden call systems, etc. But then on the other side to that is it supplies data to deliver trends and insights into people's activity when they're in their own care home room, bathroom, etc., or also when they're in their own home, or again, sheltered housing complex. The second element of that is a digital element that's got to be supported by our connected care platforms, which we have many of. We work very closely with Anthropos, the Access Group, Averio, House. There's so many. You know what I mean? We work very, very closely with them. So that's why, and we need that to deliver the insight side of things. But yes, first point is it's a fall detection device. Where's it going? We're going to give more data strings. There is a new version of software that is due to be released. One of the biggest changes we're doing right now, it should be completed for us coming back after the Christmas period, is that we will have a EU-based cloud. So that will make a big difference with regards to GDPR. We are improving, I don't know how we're doing it, but we're improving our fall detection, even more so, to a point where we're going to have a long lie. So if there is something on the floor for an extensive amount of time, it will give notifications. So it backs up anyone having a fall behind something that the VIR device doesn't pick up for whatever reason. And I can't think of that reason right now, but the long lie is there to back that up again, to hit that sort of 4% of invalid alerts and support that. We're improving our presence function. So we're looking at the amount of time spent in bed, the amount of time spent in chairs, the amount of time in the room in general. So looking at the client activity graphs a wee bit further. We're also looking at imminent bed exit. So not when the feet are hitting the floor, but actually when people are sitting up in bed. And so we're given that insight. And again, it's very, very specialized. And then the last one is we're looking at room exit. So we put door contacts on things at the moment, but we're trying to do that from one device positioned preferably on the ceiling in a facility. But if it's wall mounted, we're looking at that. Now that, again, that's the journey that we're on. And that's all within the newest software update that will be launched, as I said, very, very early in January.
That sounds all very exciting. No, that is excellent. Obviously, the way before, we started to use VIR, really the way that was dealt with was with these pressure mats that would either be wired into a call system, obviously. They're quite sort of clumsy and large, and they'd be by the bed. So when the resident got out, they would land on the mat and it would trigger the nurse call. So that was the way we would sort of traditionally deal with that. And there's still a big demand for those. But yeah, we really need to educate everybody that there is a better way of dealing with this now. There's more data and more detailed data that can be connected. And that's obviously what we're aiming to do.
Just one of the things, David, that came from that, and we will be launching our return on investment calculator within the next week. We talked about it on a roundtable event yesterday, and that return on investment calculator, when we looked at our one of our longest projects that we've had, Dryford Care Home up in Lockerbie, we actually went through the cost of all this other equipment, floor mats, PIR sensors, excluding the nurse call, just the tech. And actually, we can show them a saving of excess of £32,000 over 10 years, because it's one sensor doing many things, and it's in there for a long time, updates over the air, etc. So absolutely, but it's different, I think, is the big bit. So that's sometimes the hardest sale, which I'm sure we've discussed in the past. It's just about selling. You're not selling the dream, because it's not a dream, it's actual. But people want to, how do I put this? People want to see it in action a lot more. So that's why we've done an amazing video with Dryford Care Home. We're doing some more videos, getting the clients to talk about their experiences so we can share them. And later this into the new year, both myself and Paul Sanders, the National Sales Manager for VIR, will be supplied with full demonstration kits, so we can actually take it on the road and show people it live. So there's no need for any proof of concepts or pilots, and we can actually deliver the solution exactly how the customers actually want it.
No, that sounds really interesting. Yeah, the ROI is really important because that will make care home owners' ears prick up most definitely. And it is not till you actually look at that, the number of the mats in the number of, because each bedroom needs one, and you do the maths on it and put it in, and what that they do, they only have I would say a 3 to 5 year life expectancy, if that, because they do get abused and misused a lot. So yeah, by the time you do the numbers on that, that will certainly make people prick up and pay attention. Yeah, that's excellent.
Yeah, so VR overall, sorry, have you got any more questions for me, David? Are you quite happy?
Oh, I might have, but I was saving them up to later.
Save them up, save them up. So I suppose one of the journeys that we're on is obviously we're doing a lot of VR, doing a lot of integration work. But that integration work is to support Southern Care Maintenance and our other partners, our installation partners, to actually offer more choice to their customers. Do you think, obviously we're not integrated with Intercall at the moment, but you guys have done an amazing turnaround on that, where Southern Care Maintenance are probably one of the few installers or organizations that can actually integrate straight into every nurse call that you work with. So you can do Medicare, you can do Intercall, Aquila obviously is done, AidCall. Certainly speaking with your engineering team, it seemed to be that they were way ahead of their game on that.
Yes, I like to think that's the case. Certainly, the digital radio systems, the newer systems, are easy to integrate with. Certainly, but really, anybody looking at changing their nurse call system now. It's been a long time, I think, since we've done a new wired nurse call system. We extend existing systems that wired if customers that is what they want and that's what their preference is. We'll obviously give the customer, or we try to give the customer what they want, obviously. But in terms of new change out replacement systems, most of the systems now will be radio and really not wired. And the radio digital systems are far easier to integrate with all the new technologies there are. So yeah, no, that's absolutely the case.
Yeah, it's really exciting what Aquila and Ascom, two of the biggest ones, are doing in that digital nurse call solution. Yeah, as you know, I come from that sector, so I find it really, really exciting. I suppose that the big questions is now is, what are your customers saying? So when you go out and talk about digital offerings, what bumps in the road are they seeing? Is it, oh, that's a bit new, I don't know about that? Or is it, what are your customers actually saying? What feedback are you getting?
Yes, I think going back even just a few years, I think if you talked about a radio or wireless system, their eyes would sort of roll a bit because they really wouldn't understand. But now, everybody knows about the internet. Everybody knows about Zoom calls. Everybody knows about Wi-Fi. They don't even blink an eye now. So that they're completely used to that environment and that technology. A few years ago, there used to be a bit of a pushback. Is it reliable? What's going to happen when the batteries fail? What happens when they die? But we've come a long way from that now. So really, customers, depends who you're talking to, I suppose. If you're talking to the manager of a care home, they just really want the best solution that's going to work at the best price. If you're talking to management at board level, yes, they'll be looking, at their 3-5 year, sort of 10-year plan maybe, and how long it's going to last and whatever. So it just depends on what level I think you're talking to the customers. But on the day-to-day, they just want something reliable that works, that's really easy to use. And certainly in terms of collecting the data, they certainly want to know, look, if Mrs. Jones has a fall in her room, how can I show how quickly we got there? That sort of information that they can pass on to the residents to reassure their relatives of the residents that they, as a care home, are providing, a really good service. So that's really where we are there.
So you're hurdling over the technological challenges that obviously your customers are having. So you are Southern Care Maintenance are the go-to team. And if they have a challenge, they absolutely will come to you. You will find the solution, but it's got to be the best in class solution.
It has, yes. We get to, as soon as things stop working, we get to hear about it very quickly. And obviously, Southern Care Maintenance provide a 24-hour service for all our fire alarm and call customers. So we have teams of engineers on call 24 hours a day. So we can respond very, very quickly, and which is what we've always, aimed to do, sort of thing. Part of the reason I believe that we have been here for 35 years.
So, that's a challenge, David. I've been there with Legrand, as you know, and I know the size of team that we needed to have in a massive organisation. So, how many engineers do you have? I've seen your picture of your vans. I think your vans look amazing, but you obviously pride yourself in the how your engineers present themselves. Obviously, your engineers are sales as well as fixing things and all these things, because that's how you grow. I get that, but do you mean what sort of numbers of employees do you have?
Well, we're only a small company. We have under 25 employees, I would say, but most of them unusually are outside. They're outward facing, if you know what I mean. So we have a small admin team providing the back office support, but it really is the engineers that are, as you say, they are engineers. They're very well technically trained. They know their products. They know their systems, but also they're not just like just not a fix-it engineer. They will look for solutions. They all have a very much an interest, because they'll know they are the face of SCM, and they will know about sort of sales opportunities, and they look for that as well. So yeah, that's a great service and a good reason. We have a very high customer maintenance rate.
So I suppose one of the things you mentioned price a few times. Speaking to a lot of customers over the last 12 months, to be honest, we obviously after COVID we knew that all this money needs to be paid back, and I'm not going to go down a political conversation because that's the last thing I'm going to talk about. But I think importantly, how do we overcome that price sensitivity? So I can buy these 10 floor mats, but Viar's this price, or Aquila's that price, or Ascom's that price, or whatever. How do you overcome them, and how do we as one of your partners support you to do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that I've got a sort of potted answer to that off the top of my head. I'd probably need to give that some sort of thought. Obviously, with interest rates and costs and the financial climate, our customers are able to have a range of purchase options, so they can purchase outright if they wish. They can lease the product over 3 or 5 years if they wish, if subject to interest rates, if that works for them and their cash flow, obviously. So we do offer customers a range of options, and sometimes the leasing options, we'll take the risk as a company, and we'll charge an appropriate interest rate, and we'll finance that in-house. If it's a really particularly big deal, obviously we'll use all the standard leasing companies, obviously, who we've got good connections with. So that is one of the ways that you sort of help that pressure point, or that point of resistance. You try and overcome that. Generally, though, if the job's got to be done, and if it's a system that has failed and it needs to be replaced, it needs to be replaced. There has to be a way sort of round that. If it's a luxury item, or what they consider it to be a luxury item, they need to plan for it in the next sort of 12 to 18 months or something, which is something else we could provide, because long before it gets to the time where the parts are becoming obsolete, we will be saying to the customer, look, you really need to look at this. These parts are becoming increasingly hard to source now. We have our own set of workshops where we carry out some repairs, but really back in the old days, we used to do lots and lots of repairs. Not so much now. It really is replacing the kit. But we do give the customer the heads up on that. So at least they are aware of it. They can budget for it in their 2-3 year plan or whatever. So I think that's possibly some of the answers I can give you.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I thought it might have been. Your answer was the fact, because your engineers are so close to your customers, you are being honest and upfront and allowing them to plan in advance to do a capital expenditure purchase rather than a leasing purchase. But also, you can't plan for the unplanned. So I think the classic was the lightning strike during bad weather, took out the nurse call, took out the fire alarm. Then all of a sudden the hospice had hundreds of thousands of pounds that they needed to find, and obviously as you would support someone to do that is the big thing, because they're part of your family.
Yeah, most definitely. In fact, every year we normally try and support. We deal with lots of charities in the southeast here, and normally we try and every year to nominate one of our charitable customers. We try and support them. So that's an ongoing process at the moment. We'll be announcing our charitable customer early 23, the customer that we'll be supporting. We have like fundraising events. We collect money. We do various things in house to try and support them to do that. So that's just another little thing we do, really.
And so, I mean, let's cut to the chase. It gets a bit salesy, but why did you choose Viar?
Oh, there's a question. Well, really, first in class. I think we looked at, I mean, we've got the fantastic pressure mat that's worked very well for a number of years. If in doubt, use a pressure mat. But there's far, far better ways of overcoming that issue now. I think we looked around at various different systems, but really, it was, I think, one of our guys meeting your good self up at the Care Show 12 months ago, as you say. He came back very, very enthusiastic about the product, and was quite blown away with a number of things that it could do. So we find it's always really very interesting to keep, your finger on the pulse, visiting these exhibitions, looking what's in the marketplace, looking what companies like yourself are offering. And I think it was his initial enthusiasm that came back, and he shared it with us, and we were all blown away as well. And it really sort of went from there. So I think, to answer your question, we chose Viar because first in class for what we saw.
Perfect. No, thank you. And I remember meeting your engineer at the Care Show, because I was full of the cold and COVID was rife at the time. So yes, I remember it very, very well. It was good. Listen, David, it's a delight that you and your team are one of our preferred installation partners for your regions. We're looking forward to 2023. There's a lot of ICB work to be done. We're working hard to make sure that we give you vision of that as well when we are brought in. I think it's important for the listeners to understand that why the Viar need Southern Care maintenance as well. Viar don't quote anybody direct. We use our partners. So Southern Care Maintenance, any work within the Southern Care Maintenance's region, we would ask David and his team to quote for, and they do the quotation, the installation, and they can, as you know, service, maintain, and look after you moving forward, and offer you other solutions as well. Southern Care Maintenance are the glue that bring Viar and all the other solutions together, and I think that's an important message from me. I can't wait for 2023, to be honest. I'm going to take some time off. It's been a fantastic 2022 for the sector, to be honest, for the care sector overall. I think there is going to be some absolute massive changes in 2023. The care home of the future is a lot of strap lines that we hear, but Viar are delighted to be part of that. On the journey with Southern Care Maintenance, and David, please pass on festive wishes to your whole team. Enjoy your night out tomorrow. Happy retirement. I'm sure you will miss your colleague when he's gone. And from Viar to Southern Care Maintenance, thank you ever so much for taking the time today to meet with us. And to the listeners, I hope you enjoyed it. There is more podcasts coming. I will keep you updated on them. Follow us on social media. We do have a YouTube page as well that you'll be able to see this, me and David live on video. And we look forward to catching up with you in the next one.
That's great, Stuart. And just from all of us to you guys as well, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. I bet you look forward to having some time off. I know how hard you've been working. We're in the middle of an IT upgrade at the moment, upgrading some of our servers. So unfortunately, there won't be much time off for me at Christmas, because it's a good time to get on with IT work. But anyway, looking forward to it, and very much looking forward to doing lots of business in 23. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk, Stuart.
Excellent. Thank you.
Cheers.